12 minutes moving down past the 8 o'clock hour. Stick around, the In the Spotlight radio show continues in just a moment. When I posted
In the Spotlight on 295 FM radio every Monday night from 8 p.m. In the Spotlight, featuring people from all walks of Dominican life, spotlighting their triumphs and tragedies, dreams, hopes, and aspirations. Untold stories, touching the human and personal side of our people in politics, religion, sports, business, music, culture, the media, and more. Getting to know our farmers, public servants, youth, the ordinary Dominican. Listen to their stories. No limitations, no restrictions, no holds barred. In the Spotlight will also spotlight interesting topics, issues, and relevant situations. Don't miss In the Spotlight on Q95 FM radio every Monday night from 8 p.m. In the Spotlight on Q95 FM radio every Monday night from 8 p.m. In the Spotlight, featuring people from all walks of Dominican life, spotlighting their triumphs and tragedies, dreams, hopes, aspirations, untold stories, touching the human and personal side of people in politics, religion, sports, business, music, culture, the media, and more. Getting to know our farmers, our public servants, youth, and the ordinary Dominican. Listen to their stories. No limitations, no restrictions, no holds barred. In the Spotlight will also spotlight interesting topics, issues, and relevant situations. Don't miss In the Spotlight on Q95 FM radio every Monday night from 8 p.m. In the Spotlight.
All right, we're all settled and ready to go. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the In the Spotlight radio show for tonight. And again, I do apologize for my absence last week, Monday, and the Monday before that. The Monday before that had to do with the cold that I had, and it was pretty bad. And then last week, I had some time off. And honestly, I just needed some time. Okay, guys? So, but we're here tonight, and we are here for a very, very good purpose. It is one of the nights when we're not featuring a personality, but we are in fact featuring a group, and a group that is doing some excellent work. And it is a group that I've decided tonight they need the awareness that we're going to give them through the In the Spotlight radio show because of the work that they are doing, especially as it pertains to the very vulnerable children within our community, within our society, but more so within a certain segment of the society is what we're going to focus on tonight. We say thank you to Josephine Gabriel and Company Limited for providing our water tonight. They came with their water, but Josephine Gabriel provides us with water too, right? So thank you, Josephine Gabriel and Company Limited. And thank you to all the folks who support us in whatever other way or the other. Tonight, listeners and viewers of the In the Spotlight radio show, we are happy to have in the studios the members of the Kalinago Child Support Foundation Incorporated. Now, we're going to be changing seats around during the course of the night because not only do we have the three members of the association who are on right now, we're going to start off with them. They're going to tell us about the Kalinago Child Support Foundation. But interestingly, we also have a lady who is returning to the program tonight because depuis ça va parler des enfants, et fait abuse enfants, il là. All right, so Delia Coffee Weeks is also in studios with us tonight. Well, she's on the outside. She'll join us afterwards. And we also have Dr. Shoyage Masikot, who is a psychologist, who will join us on the other end of the program. And last but certainly not least, we have a survivor who is going to share her story with us tonight on the In the Spotlight radio show. We hope that you stay tuned and locked in with us on the program. It's already 17 minutes past the 8 o'clock hour, and we need to get things going here. So let's begin with, oh, there's one of the gentlemen who is here. What's the name?
Ben.
Ben. Just Ben? Ben? Just Ben. Ben, what's your last name?
Lestrade.
Ben Lestrade is also here with us tonight, and Ben is actually a member of the association as well, but he's the one behind the camera, and he's also assisting my camera as well tonight on the program. Okay, so our radio listeners, good evening to you. We thank you for joining us as well. So we're going to start off in the middle, and we have with us Amanda Theodore. And I know Amanda pretty well because she's a family friend. And I mean, we go way, way, way back. So it's really nice to have you here, Amanda. And it's really great. It really warms my heart to hear that you're behind the founding of this Kalinago Child Support Foundation. Good evening to you, Amanda. Tell us a bit about yourself and say hello to the listeners and viewers.
Well, good evening. I'm Amanda Theodore Langley, the Executive Director and the founder of the Kalinago Child Support Foundation, Inc. The foundation started in the year 2010. We got registered in 2012 officially. We've had multiple different activities under our belt through summer literacy programs, our annual Christmas parties, distribution of clothing, foods, school supplies, backpack programs, and multiple other activities which many children in the community of the Kalinago territory have benefited from. So we can say we have been change makers.
From 2010?
Since 2010.
Since 2010. And we're going to learn a lot more about this organization tonight. We also have to your right, to your left. Yes, good evening to you.
Hi, good night.
Please tell us who you are.
So my name is Nicole Eustache. I'm the PRO of the Kalinago Child Support Foundation.
Yes, just bring her mic just a little closer. And guys, don't be shy. I'm one of the easiest host interviewers that you'll ever find, right? So just relax. I always say to people, you will never find me embarrassing my guests. You will never find me making them uncomfortable. And no one, absolutely no one will come here, call on the program or anything and make my guests feel uncomfortable. Paula.
Well, thank you for the protection.
Yeah. Back to you, my dear.
Yes, my name is Nicole Eustache. I am the PRO for the Kalinago Child Support Foundation.
And you've been part of that organization for how long?
For 10 years, I was the push for the foundation. I'm the first recipient of sponsorship. Yes, so I'm very grateful for that. Yes, so I've been there from the start, and now it's my time to jump on the train and help.
Oh God, look at me! You see me shivering.
Yes.
Oh, I look forward to this entire program tonight. You know, we'll come back to you, Nicole, in just a while. And by the way, anybody we want to say good evening, special good evening to, Nicole, listening, tuned in?
My parents, hi, good night. I know they're locked in for sure.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Marlon, of course, I know Marlon. Marlon worked with me at Cable Wireless Flow. He's still involved indirectly, but in a direct way. But Marlon, I know you. I've gotten to know you as a young man. You know, in the building, very warm, very kind. You know, tell me about your introduce yourself and tell me about your involvement in this organization.
Okay, good night to all our listeners. My name is Marlon James. I'm the social media coordinator for this foundation, for the Kalinago Child Support Foundation Inc. Well, I too, as Nicole said rightfully, I was one of the first set of beneficiaries from the foundation, and when Miss Amanda reached out to me again, because I was always involved in the foundation, however, but when she reached out to me to actually be a part of the executive, I couldn't say no. There's no way I could say no. I just wanted to always give back as much as possible, and in a way that I know I can assist, which is in the social media part of it, etc. So, and I just really want to see how much we can bring an impact to the Eastern District and to spread it as much as possible as we can in Dominica as well.
Remind us, Marlon, how did the organization assist you at the beginning 10 years ago?
Okay, so it started with, well, I was a good friend. I am a good friend, but back then it was really, she was like my mommy. And it started with sponsorship through school supplies and
to attend secondary school?
Yes, at that time, yes.
At that time, yes. And yourself, Nicole?
Okay, so about 6 years ago, when I think I was entering high school, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, my parents could not afford at the time to, I think, pay my registration fee, right? And then my good friend Amanda, she helped me out. She sorted that sponsorship out. So we got someone to pay for my registration, and that's how I started school, high school. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Amanda, these two testimonials, if you even want to call it that way, says a lot about how this all started. Take us back to, was it one situation? What was that one thing, or these many things that drove you to start this organization?
Well, everybody have that gift, that that passion that drives them, and I think it has always gravitated towards children and helping. And once I met my husband, who is coming from the Kalinago territory, and he took me there, I became friends with her mom at first, and then she started telling me about the situation, and I'm like, something has to be done, because I refused to allow Nicole to have to stay back in school because she's not able to afford, to go. So that was the first instance.
How does this organization, who is this organization funded?
It's funded by personal funds, and then other, small businesses. I have the support of my mother and my family, and we have other organizations that come on board. And for the first time, we're now starting to get involved in grant writing. So, to see how we could get the international organizations to come on board to help us to do the bigger projects, like the one we're here to talk about tonight, which is the child abuse campaign that we're running right now.
So, you're basically doing this on pockets and help from a few friends
and
family.
That's correct.
But you need more.
Absolutely.
You need more because you want to help more.
Exactly.
And I can tell that whatever it is that this organization is doing, it is not for anyone's personal gain. Because if these two young people here started, and it didn't have to be anything big. She needed her registration paid. Marlon needed school supplies. And you know what, Amanda? Maybe others might have been uncomfortable coming here to speak about this, because you were probably, quote unquote, in need. You couldn't afford, your family couldn't afford. And so, a lot of people probably feel a bit embarrassed about that kind of thing. But I'm proud of these two young people. And I didn't know that about Marlon, even knowing Marlon. Even when I saw him step in here tonight, I said, hey, like what you doing there? But here they are. And, you guys should be really proud of yourselves to come here tonight and to speak about this. And I hope that your testimonies can assist it can touch some major organization out there, or just the average person, the average Joe, the average Gio, who can say, I would like to support this organization to support other young people, others who can't afford, others who are unable, or their parents are unable. The registration that this organization did for you, Nicole, what did that do for you in terms of bringing you to where you are today?
So it was just a stepping stone. So from there, I started high school. I did fairly well. I know I made some persons proud. And to this day, I should be proud of myself too. So I'm starting my studies in medicine. Yeah, so I've come a long way, and just that, from there to where I am now, I can say I am grateful for that, and I hope that we can help someone else in my situation.
And do you see it that, one day Nicole will stretch her hand and help others who may be in need?
Yes.
I love this. When do you start school?
In September.
You start school in September. What school do you?
All Saints.
All Saints University. What do you plan? What do you? I mean, like, are you going to be a gynecologist, a general practitioner?
I haven't.
You're just starting still.
Yes.
Starting, and you're gonna get there. I love it, Nicole.
Thank
I
you.
really love it. And Marlon, what about you? What's the aspiration?
Well, I do plan to, continue schooling. Yeah, that's pretty much it for now. So just planning on which schools, I want to attend and what I'm going to. Well, I already know what I want to further, but
What do you want to do, Marlon?
well, it's marketing. of
It's
course.
marketing.
it's just always about marketing for me, and I just want my career to be built on that. It's really short.
And do you plan on paying it forward as well at some point?
Well, definitely.
Definitely. And there are many others like them, I presume, Amanda,
Of course,
that you've
so-
been able to support?
Absolutely. So when the organization started, with Nicole, that was the fire, the spark we needed to just start going, because then you hear of another situation and then you keep on growing until we had our first 45 beneficiaries. That is when we really started doing the activities such as the summer literacy programs, and have the other cultural icons come and talk to the children and give them the strength they need, and they that people lose their identity when they don't have appreciation for who they are, or they don't understand what they are. So we try to embed those kind of principles in our young ones, and then here they are today. They are the living proof, and there are so many more of them. It's not just them. And we have many other organizations to help. To thank for such upbringing, like Mr. He died, Mr. Ernest Pascal, who was his care of the elderly. He assisted us with the bills of clothing and food, and it was absolutely wonderful when he was there. We also did programs where we had parents involved with the poultry farming project, so we gave them the coops and the food and the chickens and whatever. So we've done quite a few activities in the community, and right now we have over 200 children or beneficiaries of the organization.
Currently?
Currently. That we have under our wings, and we have to, cater and care for them and provide equal benefits to all. So
Equal
none
benefits,
is
yeah.
limited. Try to have that balance of equity, because some have less than the other, and you have to try to bring everybody on the same level. Because I don't think in this day and age any child should be left behind. It's not right.
It's not right. And you focused on the Kalinago territory?
Well, I'm focused on the Kalinago territory. It's because that's where my husband is, from, and because that's where the organization started. But the intention is not to limit ourselves to just the territory. That's our platform, that's our base. But we will grow once we're able to get the funding to help us do the activities that we desire.
So you wanted to add something, Nicole? Okay, so just to recap, Kalinago Child Support Foundation Inc. was birthed as a result of you, Amanda, going to the Kalinago territory, where your husband is from,
Yes.
and meeting Nicole here
And her family.
and her family.
Mhm.
Is Nicole related to your husband?
I'm not certain though.
No. Okay, so you just happened to meet Nicole
Yes.
and her family.
Mhm.
And Nicole needed some assistance
Yes.
to pay her registration.
Yes.
And Amanda decided, and her husband decided that we're going to help Nicole from our pockets.
Yes. Well, it wasn't just from our pocket. We also sought help from small business and
Okay.
friends who have businesses and like that. That's how we started.
And you supported Nicole. So Nicole is somewhat of the nucleus of this organization.
Absolutely.
She was the one who caused it to start.
Exactly. The both.
And then there it is today, from that support that you gave Nicole 10 years ago. Nicole went to school, got an education, and Nicole is now beginning medical school in September.
Yes.
If that is not a heartwarming story, then I don't know what is. And then on the other side, you have Marlon, who came, I would presume, around the same time.
Yes.
You met Marlon, how you met him again?
Because my husband's parents have the Kalinago Cultural Village,
Yeah.
and they entertain a lot of activities. That's me around Gerald Langley. So Marlon will always be there because he loves being involved in activities. He's very bubbly, Marlon. And then we just built a bond, and you learn about his situation as well and his family, and we just start building that group from just that step, one step to the next step, and that's where we are right now.
And here is Marlon today. And you would look at Marlon and never guess that Marlon probably was somebody who needed, that type of assistance. Marlon is working, Marlon is employed, and Marlon is looking at pursuing his degree in marketing. And Marlon, you're going to do it.
Oh,
We
yes,
know
he
you
will.
are going to do it, right?
Definitely.
Because I know you have a passion for what you do. And with the two of you, this organization began and is today assisting over 200 children.
Yes.
All of you sitting here should be very proud.
Thank you.
Very proud of, just knowing that something that you are part of is now expanding and assisting so many more children. Amanda, in terms of what you're doing currently for these 200 children, tell us more about that, and if someone is listening and they want to support, how can they support your organization? I mean, we have a lot more to come still on the program. We're going to be talking about the child abuse campaign. Delia Coffee Wicks is here. Dr. Shoya Gemasigot is here. And we have a survivor who is going to share her story with us. I'm even nervous a bit. I said to Amanda, how far can we go with her? She said, Amanda said she's willing to share her story.
And Tayona,
Yes.
she's been through a lot, and she's also a member who started with,
Okay.
Nicole and Marlon. And she's the reason that I'm even studying social work, because when her situation happened, she couldn't deal with this. She didn't know how to express it, and then people thought she had a mental disorder otherwise, and they start talking about Christian, going to church and praying for her and those kinds of things. But the truth is, she needed counseling. She needed somebody to talk to. And at that time, I had no experience. I didn't know what to do. So I took her to the principal of the Salome Primary School. At that time was Miss Catherine. And then she took her to her home, and that is where the situation got discovered. And then she'll give you more details
Yes,
about that.
definitely. What I'm happy about is that, because I'm not a professional in those areas, but Delia is here,
Yes.
and Shoya Gay is here, so Mogani Madi question now.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I was asking, so someone who is listening to the work that you've done, that you all have done, because I mean, definitely this is a team effort.
Definitely.
It's a joint effort of everyone involved. How can they assist this organization to do more amazing and beautiful work for the young people, especially those, the vulnerable ones within the Kalinago territory?
Okay, the activities that we do to help, tangible contributions would be this back to school backpack program. where we give every single child within the foundation. We start with them, and if we have a surplus, then we give to the wider community. But we do the backpack program. We give a backpack with school supplies and other materials. We also give scholarships to children. We select the most vulnerable. That is usually funded by Jacko Seeds and fertilizers, and we also have funds where we assist families with clothing, food, any assistance if there's a medical issue and you need to get funding for that. We help with all of those situations. We have the summer literacy programs, like I've stated, to help with confidence building and literacy, reading skills, and all of those other activities. And we also have our Christmas activities where we give to the community, because most of the children don't even know what the experience of having a Christmas is like, in truth and in fact, and the only gift they might get is the one that we give them during the Christmas season. So it's very important to us to ensure that we do that.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the 200 plus children who are part of the organization.
Yes.
How does a child become part of the organization?
Well, we usually have a registration period of time, which we just ran not too long ago, and then we invite families. We provide transportation, and if you're interested, you come on board and you come meet us. We congregated, we took in all the information necessary, and so we know exactly who we're working with. As time goes along, sometimes more people jump on the bandwagon, and if we are able to, we will assist.
And that's the next question. So you have 200 children. How are you able to assist the 200 children? For example, those who will be needing assistance to go to school, whether it be secondary school, whether it be primary school, they're moving up to a phone. How do you make it happen?
Okay, well, we choose, we select the most vulnerable, as I told you. Mm-hmm. So the backpack program, everybody will get a backpack. Okay. Everybody gets those are things that are possible. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to giving,
and you already have the funding for the backpack,
yes.
the sponsor for the backpack.
That's correct.
Yes, okay, wonderful.
And then when it comes to things like schools, funding or scholarships and stuff like that, so we choose the most vulnerable. Because we cannot give
the most in need.
The most in need. Mm-hmm. Especially kids who go to high school and they probably got a pass and their parents can't afford to pay the school fees or stuff of that sort necessary to register for the new school year. So we help in that regard.
Mm-hmm. This is the In the Spotlight radio show. Tonight we're featuring the Kalinago Child Support Foundation, Inc., as well as the Child Abuse Campaign. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. You've been hearing from Nicole Eustace, and Nicole is the PRO of the organization. And if you're just tuning in, Nicole would have been the fire that started this foundation. And today, Nicole is on her way to medical school. We have as well Marlon James, and Marlon is the media coordinator. And Marlon too was there from the inception, and he too is on his way to great things as well. Amanda Theodore is the executive director and the founder of the Kalinago Child Support Foundation, Inc. I'll tell you something about Amanda. Amanda, listen. Can't see you probably by Amanda.
Strong.
I love it though, Amanda. You're very persistent because you know what the goal is. You know what the vision is. And you know that there are many within your community or within that community who need your help. And so I think the passion for going after this, because you want to get the word out, you want to get the message out, you want to continue the work that you're doing, and you want to ensure that the 200 plus children that you have under your wings who came to say, listen, their parents came to say, I will be needing some form of assistance, that these 200 children can get the assistance that they need. And with that personality and with that drive, listen, this organization is just going to grow bigger and bigger, and then persons are going to come on board to assist you and your team, because it's not you alone, it's a team effort. And I really do hope that they can do that. As it is right now, if someone were to say to the organization, what is your biggest need at the moment? What would that be?
Our biggest need at the moment is funding towards the child abuse prevention campaign, because that's a serious issue that is plaguing our society, and I think more awareness and attention needs to be brought to it. So if we could get the assistance needed towards that project, then that would be the beginning of great things.
That would be the beginning of great things.
I think that's the foundation of this organization. It's to ensure that every child is protected and provided for.
How bad is the situation? And maybe Delia will talk more about that when she comes on. But how dire is the situation?
How dire is the situation? I cannot give much of
in
statistics.
the area.
In the area of the Kalinago community, I cannot give statistics, but I can say that much more than needed to be is being affected by abuse in any form, not just limited to sexual abuse, but physical abuse, mental abuse, neglect, and all of those categories. So this is the situation we're living in right now, and I think we as Dominicans need to draw absolute attention towards it and not take it lightly, because it affects all of us in Dominica. We have the situation that just took place in Portsmouth, and it's something that has been taking place, and the problem is this isn't the only case. The neighbor next door probably has a similar situation, that's why they never spoke, and it's just everybody keeping a secret. We need to be bold and brave enough to call social welfare or the police if a situation arises. So we need to create more awareness and allow people to know that they need to call or say something if they know something is happening.
Speak up.
Speak up.
Speak up. So tell us about the campaign.
Okay. Well, the campaign is going to be spanning for a 3-month period. It will be taking place within the months of July, August, and September. And we're going to be running multiple different workshops. We have the NDFD, National Development Bank for Body First, and the purpose is to work with the parents to ensure empowerment and financial, understanding, because I think a lot of
the NDFD or the NBD?
No, NDFD.
Oh, NDFD, National Development Foundation of Dominica.
Yes. Okay, so they'll be running workshops with the parents on what I just said, financial empowerment. Then we have the Open Arms organization who will be doing workshops with the children. We have the child societies. We have Delia Coffee Weeks. We have in a march. We're going to be visiting all of the schools and talking about good touch, bad touch, different forms of abuse. It's just multiple activities, and it's too much to discuss right now.
What are the main activities we need to prepare for, though? If you want participation from the public, that kind of thing.
The main activity will be the branding of the abuse campaign, where we need to put out the billboards and mural paintings and the road marches and all of those things. Okay,
so how will we get a full program, or when will we get to see a full program of the activities for the quarter, for the 3 months?
We can have it sent. We have it right now.
Yeah,
just have to send it out to the public.
So Maman, tell us a bit more about some of the activities.
Okay, so the calendar, like Mr. Mendez rightfully said, it's spanned across a 3-month period. So, this month we're really focusing on the child abuse prevention campaign, and that campaign will go throughout the Kalinago territory and the Eastern District by extension, because we're going to be including the Castle Bruce, San Sauve, Piditsufria, those areas as well in the campaign. Especially in the workshops, and we're gonna have workshops. We're gonna have seminars, along with the professionals, of course, with us on board with us for that. We also have the painting of the mural depicting child abuse that will be done at the Salabia Primary School. That is where our back to school backpack giving ceremony will be as well, in that area.
Okay.
We also have our parenting skills workshop that will be done by the Child Protection Society. That is something that we really look forward to as well. And okay, so later down so the workshops.
Technology work for you.
I'm not doing anything now. But the workshops and seminars will move across the 3-month period of different workshops, of course, for parents, for the children, and the back to school program. We have the painting of the mural again, and we have the prevention campaign that is our main focus right now, and that will be one of our biggest focus for the 3-month period.
All right.
Yes.
Sounds like you have some activities planned in store there. and I think they're all relevant areas, all relevant topics that the people within that community and even Dominica by extension, can benefit from. So if someone, let's say, is in Pishley and they want to be part of the activities or an activity, is that okay? Will there be activities open to the public?
Absolutely.
Not just the people within that community?
Absolutely, and especially during the road march, it will be open to the entire Dominican, society. So we would appreciate
T-shirts. People will be able to buy T-shirts and that kind of thing.
We hope to have all that branding material.
Yes, that'd be excellent. You could really make a big statement,
Exactly.
ensuring that you're all branded.
Yes.
With, the marketing people there, Imagine everybody walking and marching,
Exactly.
with their T-shirts and just, make that happen.
Perpetrators need to be trembling.
That's it. All right, so guys, yes, so we're gonna wrap this segment up, and we're gonna get ready for those on the other side of the door. But Nicole, is there anything you would like to leave us with?
I would like to thank everybody who has contributed to our foundation one way or the other, and I urge others to join us so we could have an enjoyable session.
And Nicole, we really, I know that I'm rooting for you here, and I know the viewers and the listeners are rooting for you and saying all the best to this young lady, I hope at some point, you make up your mind as to what exactly you want to specialize or focus on in terms of your field of medicine. But we definitely wish you well, and make your people proud.
Thanks a lot.
Marlon, anything from you?
I just really want to be like a huge echo to Nicole, to everything that she said a minute ago. So basically everything, we just really want to make an impact, and that's our biggest goal, to bring awareness, especially for a campaign, and to bring awareness, to get more persons on board with us, so that we can continue what we're doing and what we would like to do. Because there's a lot more things that we would like to do as well. So I just want to appeal to the public to come on board with us, support us. We're trying to make a huge impact. So the more people we have, the bigger the noise.
Right.
So that's really it.
And know that you all are doing something good. Know that for sure. You are doing something good, and all I can see is beneficiaries from what you're doing, especially the vulnerable members of your community.
But Flo has always been a great sponsor.
Yes, you've always been a support.
Always.
Is that her way of saying you get that already? Oh my goodness. All right, guys. So thank you. Facebook Livers, stay with us still as we just make the turnover to the other group that's going to come now. And Amanda, you can stick around probably on this chair here in case we need you to come back and share with us. Yeah?
Yes.
All right. So we're just going to take a quick break, and we're just going to transition to the next group of persons. Keep it locked.
In the spotlight on Q91 Radio every morning from 8 p.m. In the spotlight, featuring people from all walks of Dominican life, spotlighting the trials, beliefs, dreams, hopes, aspirations, untold stories, touching the human and personal side of people and politics, religion,
Let's start with you.
business, music, culture, the media, and more. Getting to know our fathers, our public servants, you, and ordinary Dominica. Listen to the stories. No limitations, no restrictions, no holds barred. In the spotlight will also spotlight interesting topics, issues, and relevant situations. Don't miss In the Spotlight on Q95 FM Radio every Monday night from 3 p.m. In the Spotlight.
8:52 is the time in the studios of Q95 FM radio. And we are back. As we told you before, we had our first group of persons on, and they included Amanda Theodore, the Executive Director and Founder of the Kalinago Child Support Foundation, Inc. We had Nicole Eustace, who is the Public Relations Officer and a very early beneficiary. In fact, she sort of contributed to the start of this foundation. And we also have Marlon James, who also contributed to the start of this foundation. He is the media coordinator. We did inform you before, at the beginning of the program, that once we're done with the executive members, that we'd be moving across to Mrs. Delia Coffee Weeks, who is no stranger to the In the Spotlight radio show. We're happy to have her, and we'll say hello to her in just a while. We also have with us Dr. Shoya Gay Massicot, who is also no stranger to the show. She's actually, what do you call yourselves, Lupis?
Yes,
There you go. So she's been there, and we'll get a little update from her before we begin speaking about the topic for tonight. And we also have a survivor with us, Teona. I tried to mess up your name too, I know Delia. Well, Delia, you good, you know the business, you know. And Teona is a survivor, and she'll be sharing with us tonight her story of being a victim, moving to survival, and now into advocacy. Right? So we're going to say hello to everyone. So I'll begin with Dr. Massicot. Yes, Dr. Massicot, how are you?
I'm okay. It's just Shoya. It is Amanda that has bestowed doctor upon me. It's just Shoya. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm not too bad.
It's nice to be back.
Yes. So how have you been?
I've been good. I've been working a lot. Oh Lord, since we met, a lot of things have happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if when we met I had started my own private practice.
Mm-hmm.
But I've started my own private practice.
Congratulations.
It's an online international private practice actually. So I basically extend clinical psychological services to people all over the world, right? Mainly in the Caribbean and even in the US, and so it's mainly people of Caribbean descent, right? Because it's hard for them to be pouring out their heart and be twanging and all of that at the same time. So they come back home.
Right.
I had babies.
You had babies?
Yes, I had babies.
Plural.
Right? I had babies.
I know we had spoken about that.
Yes, we're going on with things, right? I've had babies. I'm still at DSC, and actually I'm seeing my students. So that's nice. And what else?
Smiling.
I'm at All Saints, so I'm the clinical psychologist at All Saints as well. And of course, for this wonderful foundation. Yes.
And I'm happy that she's here and she's smiling and she's telling me all of these great, amazing things that has happened in her life. How is Mr. Lupus?
I wish he would die,
Mm-hmm.
but it's okay. So when I got pregnant, both times, lupus went into remission. Yeah, can you believe it?
Oh my God.
Yes.
Remember she said that.
Right?
Yeah.
So, if it was sustainable, I'd be pregnant all the time. Children weren't so expensive, I think. Right? So I've had healthy pregnancies, natural childbirth, no lupus until about 5-6 months after I come back. But it's been well. I've been managing well.
You've been managing well.
Yes.
I'm happy to just hearing you saying you're good.
I'm good.
It's
actually
good to hear.
Yes, I came with my sweater and thing because I know in here going to be cold.
Right.
I'm not going to hurt up my arthritis and thing. But I've been good.
Thank you. Well, I'm happy you came prepared.
I am always prepared.
Good stuff, good stuff. Mrs. Weeks, Delia, Ma Weeks, I always love having you here to speak on matters, on this subject matter. And here you are again this evening. Tell the people bonsoir and say hello.
Well, I wouldn't say bonsoir because I'm not French.
Oh,
so I would say bonsoir because I'm Dominican.
Okay, ma'am.
And
I
I teach fundamentals of conversational Creole
Is
for
that-
UB, so I can't
Okay.
be out there telling my students bonsoir, bonsoir. No, we're not French. Nous c'est mon Creole, bonsoir.
C'est ça, ma'am. Bonsoir, Delia. Delia, how has it been since you were last here?
Well, for right now, busy. Because it never ever stops. But I also know that when it stops, it means I'm dead. So I just keep doing what I am doing. I am on a mission to make the world a better place for people, one person at a time. And so sometimes people ask me, how do you find the time? And I say to them, for the things that are important, we make the time. When you die, you're just going to sleep forever and ever and ever. Amen. So you can actually give up on some of your sleep. And you can give up on some of your junk food to do some things that really impact lives. So when Amanda called me, well, you know who Amanda is, so it's kind of difficult to say no to Miss Persistent, but she didn't have to break me down because, you know, she touched that soft spot, and I said, look, come hell or high water, I'm going to be here. And it looked like I was really tested because it looked like we got close to high water tonight.
So I messaged her and I said, you know, I see the weather is misbehaving. Miss Positive said to me,
It's a passing cloud.
That's what she told me. I should play the voice note for them.
It's a passing cloud.
Miss
It's
Lady said we'll be fine. She said we'll see what happens at 7 o'clock. But everybody's ready to go, so
we can do this.
A few people need to take a page from
I'm
her book.
telling you. Myself just saying thunder, lightning,
Good for you.
But it's important. We have
Yes,
to be here.
it is
we have
important
to
enough.
be here tonight.
And I mean, this is something that we have tried to ignore for much too long. And I am quite happy that it is finally beginning to be put on the front burner. We still have a lot of work to do, and it's not going to be an easy journey. But if it's worth it, let's do it. And so, I mean, people know Mawix again, yes, Mawix again.
Oh no, I don't mind
Because
Mawix.
I am not giving up. And I'm happy to no longer be that lonely voice in the desert crying out all by myself.
Yes, you came on a program all by yourself with me, you know. It wasn't even to talk about you then. It was to talk about that.
It doesn't
Her
matter.
first appearance on this program was not to tell her story, you know. Her first appearance on the program was to talk about this.
Child abuse, yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And way after a few years after that, we
Yes.
actually, you know, brought her on as an actual guest of the program. So thank you for being here, Delia. Thank you for being
welcome. You're
here.
welcome.
Sure. What you said? Just
Sure, yeah.
Sure, yeah. Just show you. All right. And then we have with us, I want to get it right, Tiana. Teyuna. How do they call you for short? Teyo. I might still not get that.
Just don't call a person child to you.
No. Parce que nous guérons très monde là. Teo, that's gonna work, right? Teo, I want to thank you for being a brave young lady to come on tonight. And we'll begin with your story, and then we'll follow up with Mrs. Wicks and we'll begin Delia and Shoya, right? Tonight. So again, tell us who you are and where you're from.
Okay, good evening to everybody. It is such a pleasure to be here tonight. I'm so grateful and thankful that I could be here to share my story. My name is Teyuna Tyson. I am a part of the foundation. I actually started off with Marlon and Nicole. I am the treasurer and secretary of the Kalinago Child Support Foundation.
How comfortable are you here tonight to speak?
I'm quite comfortable.
You're quite.
It's okay. It's fine.
It's okay. It's fine. It's comfortable. You know. I mean,
she
I have
has
to make
two
sure.
push.
And then I'm happy
One
that
on
you
each side.
flanked. You're flanked by these two people here who can, step in if they need to, to provide support. And you're from the Kalinago territory.
Yes, I am.
What part of the Kalinago territory?
Crayfish River.
Crayfish River.
Yes.
Tell me about your family.
I have a wonderful family. I live with my mother and my father and my siblings. Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about you, Toya. Teo. I told you all.
You come
Okay.
out eventually.
You know what? Watch what I'm going to do. Eh?
So
T-A.
why?
Oh.
Yes.
Teo. Here we go. All right. So tell us about you.
Well, I am. Where can I begin?
We start from the beginning.
Well, I'm 22 years old at the moment. I started off in the foundation as like Mal, and I needed help with, school supplies. Things were rough. My family kind of had it difficult. I grew up well, it's difficult. Currently, now I am the clerk of the Kalinago Council in my community. Yes, and I am currently working on my law degree.
Oh, wonderful. I was just about to ask, what's the dreams and aspirations of Teo? Tell me what your dreams and aspirations.
The main thing is I want to make a change in people's lives. I want my story to help other people to speak up, to stand up, and to know that it's okay to just make things happen. Basically, that's it. To just be something great. That's what I want.
How did your, and I know we've not touched it as yet, how is your story and your experience impacting the type of lawyer that you want to be?
I actually do not want to be a lawyer. I don't want to be a lawyer. I don't know. Okay, maybe it's the law thing. People think that I want to be a private investigator, actually.
Oh,
Yes.
so then we're getting into it. So is your story and your experience part of why you're
Yes.
going in that direction?
Yes, yes, yes.
And when you speak about private investigator, is there a particular area that you want to focus on?
The child, what do you call that? The part for children, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So you want to investigate
Yes.
situations like what you
Yes.
what you experienced. Okay, so let us talk, Teo, about your experience. What happened to you?
Okay. It all started. I was in primary school. I was in grade 6 at the moment. It was a very close family member of mine, someone that I trusted, someone I believed in, someone I felt safe with. It was just like an ordinary day. I was staying with my aunt. I was like in the, how can I say, Vicente area. I was living with family at the moment up there. And it was like an early morning. My aunt, who lives in Seba, she was down for some time, so I went to stay. And that morning I woke up not feeling too well, and then I went upstairs of the house. And for some reason I was young, so I had my little underwear on, my little shirt.
Do you mind telling us how old you were at the time?
I can't remember exactly.
And just pause a moment. And Choya, the fact that she does not remember her age, the age that it actually happened to her, what does that say?
It can be something that we call repression, right? So when we go through trauma, our brain, the job of our mind is to protect us and to keep us safe, right? So it's quite likely that she was very young, and when children are very young, they don't have the skills yet to cope. So their minds use very immature coping mechanisms, but very effective coping mechanisms. And one of those is called repression, where the mind just buries the memory, right? And it can be total repression, where there's absolutely no memory at all of the event. Like some people are sexually abused and they have no recollection. They're not hearing? Okay, so some people can be sexually abused and they have absolutely no recollection of it, or they can just have partial recollection. So it could be very much that her mind would have buried some of the memories associated with it, and that's why she doesn't remember exactly what age she was. It's quite likely that she doesn't remember other aspects of it as well.
Go on, my dear. Yes.
That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah, that's very true. I have absolutely no idea how old I was. I can't
You
remember.
honestly
But
just
I
cannot
it's
remember.
nowhere there in your
You don't
mind.
even remember what grade you were in?
I believe I was in grade 6 at the moment.
You think, okay, so you might have been about what, about 11, maybe 10,
Yes,
11?
somewhere around there.
Like,
Mhm.
So that morning I woke up, I went upstairs, I said I wasn't feeling quite well, and I went to sit on the couch. Now there is a window, there were like windows facing the little road going down, lower down there, so some houses built, right? So I sat there and I was just staring outside of the window. I wasn't feeling too well. I was just trying, maybe just looking outside at that moment was bringing some comfort for me. And all of a sudden he came, it was a man.
Mhm.
He came and he sat down next to
No,
me.
it's interesting that you say you clarify that it was a man.
Yes,
because
yes,
it could be either.
could have been a woman, yes,
Yes,
right.
yes.
So yes, he came and he sat right next to me and asked me if I was okay, and I said no, I wasn't feeling too well. And then he sat there and he put his arm around me, you know, like somebody to protect you, not feeling well, you know, a relative and stuff. And then all of a sudden he just pushed his hands in my clothes. It just happened with a split moment. And he put his hands on my tiny little breast. I barely had boobs at the moment. And started, like, you know, playing with my breast area. And then I froze. At that moment I froze because, I mean, those are things that I've been hearing happening to people, but to think at that moment, what is going on? Something is going to happen to me, but what is it? And at that moment I was like just frozen. I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything because my mind had already gone into like a shock mood. And then he slowly took his hands and he slipped down my underwear. And yes, and he used his hands. And at that moment, it's like I couldn't do anything. And then the only word that escaped out of my mouth was no. Just a
No.
slight no. Not screaming, not shouting, just no. That was
Okay.
it.
Pause again. Shoya, help us understand, you know, the fact that he put his arms around her and she felt initially a feeling of protection. But then he started touching other private areas and she freezes. She doesn't scream, she doesn't yell out for help. She says a very light no. What was going on there?
Okay, so when something traumatic happens, we know a lot about the fight and flight kind of response, right? That's what we're taught. Fight and flight. So something happens and we either want to run away or we either fight it, right? But then we often forget another response, which is called freeze, right? So it's actually fight, flight, or freeze. So what can happen is that another way that our mind protects us is by just shutting down, right? And when that happens in sexual abuse, which happens very often, when that happens, we have a lot of blame and shame associated with it because it's like, why did I not scream? Why did I not do something? I could have said something, but the issue is your whole body froze. Your mind couldn't handle anything. Like it, you're moving from feeling protected at the moment to feeling violated, and it was just so much for your mind to handle. It just shut down. So it's not like she wanted to not say anything. It's a situation where she could not say anything, right? And the no that barely came out was the fight within her against her own body shutting down. And to even be able to say no is proof of a resilient spirit within her, because a lot of people just don't say anything and they can't even push past that kind of initial response, trauma response, to even say anything. So that happens very often where people just shut down and people are not able to do what they would normally think that they would do in that situation. We're just like, if that ever happened to me, I would do that, I would do that, or
I
whatever.
kick him,
I would
yes,
all kind of
yes,
things,
yes.
right?
Because
But
you're
then,
not in this situation
but then
all
it
the
happens.
time.
But then you have to understand that again, she was a child, and then this is somebody that she trusted, and at one moment she felt safe. Sorry, then she felt violated, and her brain just couldn't handle all of that. Just like if we get in an accident, our brain is just like freeze. What happened? I can't comprehend what just happened. So that's exactly what happened. But again, her ability to even say no in that situation is proof that she pushed past her initial trauma response. And I hope you don't feel any shame and anything like that.
Yes.
Or if you did, that it has passed.
Yes. Continue sharing with us. So I think you left on he then went into your underwear.
Yes, with his
Yes.
fingers, and then he did all of the weird things.
The massaging and all of that, if we want to be. And
Yes.
Dida is very open and frank about
Yes.
talking about that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
and then at that moment, I stood up. I stood up and I just walked downstairs. And I walked downstairs. I went into the room now. My auntie's room was just downstairs. I went into the bedroom, and it's like I just walked in. It's like my mind was there, but it wasn't there. I was there, but my mind wasn't there. And then she asked me if I was okay. I remember her asking me that, and I just said, okay, I'm okay. And I just did not do that. I didn't say anything. I didn't mention anything. And then I went to school that day. Like everything was normal, but then it just kept playing back in my mind. Like what just happened to me? What just happened to me? And I was still trying to understand everything. And after that, I never felt comfortable around him. And it went on like I never told my mother, I never told my parents, I never mentioned anything because in my head he is somebody that I trusted, and I still really couldn't understand what happened to me and why did it happen to me. And years after, I would sit down and I would like just go play it back in my head, and I'm like, what did I do wrong?
Yes.
What
So
did I do wrong?
even
Did I do something wrong?
before we even get to years after, what did he say? Did he say anything to you? Did he threaten you? Don't say anything. Did he even at least try to tell you don't say anything?
I can't remember.
You can't remember. So
He said
again,
anything
Yeah.
at that moment, I wouldn't remember. I don't know.
And can I just say something too? Baby girl's mind is just picking from all these defense mechanisms and just
Yes.
dragging on them, right?
Yes, yes.
And it's something that our mind does to survive. So when she said, I felt like I was there, but I wasn't there, that's another defense mechanism that's called dissociation.
dissociation.
Right? Dissociation. You ever hear people go through trauma and they say, I feel like I was watching it happening to somebody, but it was me, right? It's a way that our mind protects us by detaching itself from us. So we are not actually feeling the thing, and it feels like it's somebody else that's feeling it and not us, right? So we have repression, we have dissociation, we have all of that going on at the same time. And that's the only way that you came out of that situation and didn't go crazy, right? Because her mind was using all of these things to keep her safe. So the fact that she doesn't remember what he said, she don't remember all of those kind of things, and bits and pieces of it, again, is her mind protecting her, as well as the dissociation. And what tends to happen when trauma happens, and we use these defense mechanisms and they work, then when trauma happens again in the future, our brain uses them. So she would have gone through situations. We haven't spoken it, all right?
No?
Right? No, she was my student, but we didn't speak about them kind of things, right? But I'm telling you that if this was, her mind was really good at keeping her safe in this instance, it means then that she would have dissociated again in the future. Like she would have gone through things and felt like she wasn't there. And things would have happened that she's in the future, like not this future, but since that happened, where she doesn't remember everything. So the repression and the dissociation continues to happen in stressful situations because her mind would have learned that this works and this keeps us safe.
Did you understand that something wrong had happened to you?
I did, but then at the same moment I didn't. and it's weird, but then that's how.
Well, I guess that's why Shoya is
that's-
here
yes,
to help us
yes.
understand, you know, or why she would have felt that way, Delia, and I'm sure
Because she doesn't understand what was happening to her, and her juvenile brain is trying to make sense of the nonsense. But it's like you have this person who represents something, and then you also have another not so good story, and you cannot bring the two pieces together. So it's like sometimes you hear news of a death, a sudden death. And I remember when Eddie Toulon passed. So somebody was giving me the news. They were telling me something about Edmond Toulon, and they were telling me something about somebody who had died. And we kept going around in circles. Because they asked me, do you know Eddie Toulon? And I'm like, yes. And then they said something about somebody who had died. And I said, who died? And they told me, Edmond Toulon. And I'm like, who is Edmond Toulon? And then they told me, and so we got caught in a cycle until I caught myself, because I was hearing two things that I didn't want to come together. Even recently, when my ex-co-worker was murdered in St. Vincent, I saw the news story. And so I saw his picture, and I'm reading a headline. And immediately my brain says, uh-oh, he left agriculture and he's now into forensics, because he is the person who is working on the decomposing body. Because that is easier for me to understand than for me to accept that my friend is dead and decomposing. So I created a whole different scenario in my head, because that was so much easier for me to deal with. And then when I read the story and the things started coming together, I didn't sleep the night because this thing just kept playing in my head. So it's the same thing. So you have one picture of somebody, and then you also have an event that has taken place, but the two don't come together. And she's struggling to put them together.
So Teo, good Diana.
Just call her T.
Yes.
For the purpose of the exercise, we call it her T.
I've never gone off track like that with somebody's name on this program.
Not even mine.
Right? So this happened to you. As you reported to us, you basically almost went with life as it was normal, almost. You said nothing to your aunt. You can't recall what the gentleman would have said to you. You went to school. And how often would that memory pop up in your head?
Every day.
Every day.
Every day.
But yet still you couldn't speak about it.
And I honestly don't know why. I really, up till today, I still don't know why I couldn't talk about it. Until now.
Yeah.
I can like openly
Speak about it.
But before I couldn't.
So
But then, still yet, it wouldn't really affect me that much, I would say. But then, it was there every day. I would sleep, I would think about it. I would
well,
have
probably
nightmares.
in your mind you thought it wasn't
No, yeah,
affecting
that's
you, but
true.
probably it was affecting you otherwise. And I guess at some point, sure, you will tell
I
us.
couldn't sleep. I would take long showers because at that moment I felt disgusting. I did.
Oh.
I would stay in my bathroom for God knows how long under the bathroom. Just I feel like when I was bathing, like water would just wash away everything.
And nobody
Just sitting
suspected that, you know, she's taking extra long showers, you know, probably a difference in your behavior.
The thing about me is I can cover up a lot.
Okay.
I've learned that about myself. I've realized that if regardless of what happens to me, I'm still smiling.
Right.
I would still play things off like it's okay. So I guess that's how I held out for that long.
Years passed. You struggled with it every day. You remembered it every day, but still you couldn't speak about it. When was the moment that somebody was told what happened to you?
The first person I told was my grandmother.
Your granny.
Yes.
Is Granny still alive today?
Yes, she is.
Yes.
She
Okay.
is. She is.
Good night, Granny. If you're listening.
Yeah. Yes. She's actually the principal of the Salabay Primary School. She was actually the first person I mentioned that to. I just went. I don't know. At that moment, I just couldn't hold it anymore, and I went and I spoke to her about it, and I remember her getting so angry. She wasn't mad at me. She was mad at him. She was so mad. I could see it in her face, and at that moment, I wanted to cry because I felt like I like just saying it to her made me feel like something just lifted off my shoulder in a sense, not fully, but a little. And she called my mother, and then I had to sit down in front of my mother and explain to my mother that this happened. And the funny thing is that person is very close to my mother and very important to my mother.
Yeah.
So to break that news to my mother was really, really difficult. But my mother had my back. She
believed you.
She believed in me.
Very
She
important.
believed in me. Even if it took a while, like I took a very long while to tell her, and she stood up for me at that moment. She called the person, and she asked to meet with them, and then she really went out on them, and then we dealt with that. But yeah, it took me a while. It took a lot of strength to speak out.
Shoya Delia, I want to ask, what do you think would have triggered her, caused the trigger for her to just speak on that day to her granny?
I'm not sure if there was a trigger. What I'm sure of is that her granny would have been someone who was emotionally safe for her, right? Who was emotionally safe. Because we don't talk about things that vulnerable to people we don't trust. So her granny would have been somebody who was safe, and then I can't even depend on her memory because half of it gone, right? But yeah, I know that we talk to people when they're emotionally safe to us, and I'm absolutely sure that granny was somebody that was like that for her. Not that mom wasn't like that for her, but I feel like the relationship that mom had with this person would have affected her willingness to talk to mom about it. Not that she might not believe that mom would believe her or anything like that, but if they are really close and this person is important to mom, being in that situation, I'm not sure if she remembers questioning if it really happened. Sometimes, because those kind of things, when it happened to children, they're not really sure if it's real, especially when they feel like they were there but they were not there and so on. So I feel like with grandma, it was the safety, essentially.
And the thing about it is that, Diana, there are so many things that could have just sparked it, but we don't know. It's the very same way that you could have a volcano dormant for so many years, and then it just decides, or you've been taking care of your skin, and out of nowhere, this boil suddenly appears. And the reason that I'm using these examples is because in interacting with victims of child abuse, the horror stories, the coping mechanisms very early after the event has happened, the way that sometimes people don't even remember. They may just realize, so for example, one lady had an aversion to slimy things, but she didn't understand why. She was sexually molested, she was before preschool age, and she had absolutely no recall. At least Theo remembers something, even if not everything. But that woman had no recall of this. And then she was an adult, grown. She had pursued her passion. And she was out of state at a workshop, and then sitting there, nothing to do with what happened to her. The pain of the assault came back to the point that she fell out of the chair that she was sitting in. And they had to call an ambulance to get her out of the place. when they took her to the hospital, did the physical examination, they're realizing it's all hair. Okay? It just came back when she least expected. One other woman, when she saw her abuser, she didn't even remember the event, but she saw this man coming, she just ran across the road and a vehicle almost knocked her down. So there is no real explanation as to what is it that would have triggered. But it has a profound impact on people's lives. One of the things that I say to people is that hurt people hurt people. And it's not for wanting to take revenge. Sometimes that is the only thing that you can do. And people will not understand even if you try to explain to them. And unless these things are really taken care of. You know, like if you have a boil, you just wish that somebody would just put a little plaster over it so it doesn't bounce anywhere. But your granny or the nurse will tell you, but no, I have to clean it out. And they will cause you pain. But that is to enhance your healing. And that is where people like Shoya come in. Because even people who think that they're coping, and they say, oh, I don't need to speak to anybody, I'm okay.
I'm okay.
You're okay until you find out that you're not okay. So short of preventing the abuse from happening, the next thing we have to do is to look at people who have been abused and find ways of helping them to work through what happened.
I think with Teo, a lot of things in Teo's story helped her to survive, right? We spoke about the initial little spirit under there, that's a little fighter spirit that was known, right? That same spirit is the one that told grandma, right? And we spoke earlier about religion being a huge part of her healing process and stuff like that. We're going to come to that, and that. But also the response of the people she told was, I feel like, a pivotal moment, right?
She felt relief.
Yeah,
like a load had been. Yes. Amanda wanted to share something with us.
So whilst you're on that topic, I remember while that incident took place, you know, with Tiona, and Tiona is missing a lot of parts, so apparently she did block off a lot of things because Tiona was lashing out. At the prayer time, she was speaking to no one, so she was muted. She spoke to absolutely no one. And then when she finally started speaking, she was acting like somebody who was going through exorcism. Yes. As a result, the churches and everybody was getting involved. That was a huge topic in the entire community of the Kalinago territory because nobody knew what was going on. And I told another member of the organization, that's Muriel, who at the time, Nicole's mom, and I told her, something happened to Nicole, and I know it's sexual. And I'm saying, Nicole, sorry, Tiona, and something is to be done. Lo and behold, that same evening we were talking, Tiona comes looking for us in the middle of the night. She left her mother's home, you know, walking on the street looking for me. Everywhere on the streets. I'll never forget that. And I think that is what propelled that child abuse campaign. So Teo House is the one who initiated that. And I took her to her mom. I didn't even know that's your grandmother, but I know she was the principal of the Salvia school at the time, and I didn't know how to address the situation. So I just took her straight to the principal's house at that hour of the night. And from that moment on, she stayed with her grandmother, and that's when the story came out.
Do you remember you acting out in that way and behaving in that manner? Sometimes just keeping to yourself, other times you acting out and...
Yeah, the acting out, I can't remember that back. But yes, me being silent, yes. It's like I felt like I just wanted to be by myself. I didn't want to mingle with anybody. I just wanted to be, you know, like just, you know, everybody just stay in your lane kind of thing.
But the way that Teo is talking is a lot like it was a conscious effort on her part. And it was not, baby. It wasn't. She's talking about selective mutism. That is a lot of times a result of trauma, where you have children that just don't talk for a period of time, right? And what could have happened in her situation is that because she didn't shout or she didn't say anything during the thing, then it's almost as if her mind was like, okay, let's not say anything at all, right? So that sometimes happens in terms of abuse when the freeze happens, when people were not able to say anything, especially when people are close by and they were not able to shout or say anything. It's like almost like their mind them punishing themselves for not being able to say anything then. And if I couldn't say anything then, I shouldn't be talking at all, right? Or the confusion of, do I even say anything? Is it real? And so on. But when I was saying that it's a pivotal thing, it's because if her parents didn't believe her, if her mom didn't believe her, if her grandma didn't get angry, if they didn't confront the person and the response was like, it's your fault, or we don't believe you, and those kind of things, then her recovery period would have been totally different. And Amanda spoke about how she was acting and the religious aspect that sometimes comes in. And I've worked with so many children, so many adults who were children who believed it was something spiritual because of how they were acting, when it really was trauma. And when I'm teaching, when I'm talking about abuse, I've always said, I'm never here to tell you that the spiritual part doesn't exist. But my area of expertise is psychology. And sometimes when people go through trauma, they can have a lot of psychological behaviors that look like spiritual behaviors. And the issue with the spiritual belief is that it can be narrow-minded, where if I believe it's somebody that do my child something, I'm not going to take my child to a psychologist. I'm going to take my child to the religious people and all of that, right? But what if that doesn't work? What if the issue isn't religion? Then what we tend to do is we don't explore other options because we believe it's somebody that do them something, right? But a lot of times we see children acting out, we see children in class screaming, crying, children being angry and all of that, and we don't attribute it to trauma, and sexual trauma that is, because that is probably one of the most common types of trauma. Like sexual abuse has been a global pandemic since before COVID-19.
You call it a pandemic, huh?
Yeah, right? Yeah. Since before COVID-19. Like, sexual abuse is so rampant and it's so normalized that it's crazy. We think that it's almost a normal part of culture. We just talk about it very casually, you know? But
I want to go back to Teo. Got it this time. So, you said mom called the person because the person was pretty close to mom, and mom initiated a meeting with that person. What I want to know though is what happened after that. Was the police involved? Was there? Yes, take us through that part.
Well,
and what came out of it, if anything?
After she called him, she had him come to our home. And she put him like a good distance from me because she knew.
So you were in the room.
I was right there.
You were present. And
she looked at him and she said that she let him know that she knows and she believes me and she stands by me. And he looked at her and he said he did nothing. And then she
denied.
She told him to look at me and he's going to apologize. She stood there. And she made him apologize. She made sure that he
But I hope that wasn't all.
She made him apologize to me. And we took it further. And yes, he was dealt with. And he's free now. But at that moment, yes.
He was Delia, probably you can, or Amanda can probably tell us.
Well, if she says they took it further and he's free now,
I mean,
let's connect the dots.
Some time.
Yes.
Good stuff. So the courts believed you. The jury believed you.
They stood by me.
Yes.
And, I was very happy about that.
Did you have to recount your story in court?
That's our system. That is our system.
It was, up to this giving out, telling out my story, I never cried. I don't know why. I guess that's how you call that?
There must be a term for it.
But yes, I had to tell my story again. But I was okay with it as long as I knew that it was something was going to happen, and it did. And now I'm okay with like seeing him now. I'm fine.
Okay.
Like I'm fine. I can see him now, and I'm not.
And do you
afraid.
see him? Do you come
Yes.
across him occasionally?
Yes.
Okay. He says nothing to you? At least, even if it was years later, this is one of the situations that was dealt with. You were believed, your mother believed, your grandmother believed. I suspect the association was behind you, giving you that support you needed. And here you are today. Before I go back to Shoya and Delia, we must speak about how are you now? I know you just said you're okay.
Well, I said that.
And Shoya said earlier on that, the survivors say they're okay. In that case, coming from the victim, they may not necessarily be. But what we would want to understand is, how did you go through the healing process after this?
I'm still healing.
You're still
Because
healing.
that's something that never truly really goes away. You don't. That's something you can never really forget. But I'm healing. I'm getting used to it. However, I can see that particular thing that happened to me has had an impact in my relationship.
Oh.
I still have trust issues. I feel uncomfortable still when certain people, if you let's say wake me up, try to touch me in the middle of the night to wake me up, I get scared. I feel frightened when people stand behind me, when people put their hands, even if it's just around my back, I feel uncomfortable. So I still see that I still have some healing to do. But
what was the process like, and what are you doing even now, to deal with some of the experiences that you're still having? And probably Shoya, when you respond, can come in and tell us, what is the process that one goes through, to heal from something like that? No, I was asking you first. Yes, you.
my faith. I pray a lot.
You pray a lot.
I pray a lot.
So you've not done any
Counseling.
therapy and that kind of thing?
No, I haven't. But I pray a lot.
Is that something, sorry to interrupt, but is that something you would still be interested in doing? Let's say if Shoya says to you, listen, I want to help you.
I'm open.
Especially hearing now, what is happening in terms of relationships.
Yeah.
If someone simply probably touches you, the way you feel, I think we can probably all agree here that probably you still need some,
I am open to it.
You're open to it. Yes, sure.
What was the question?
The healing process that someone who experiences what she experiences go through.
Okay, so it's very different for many people. I feel like Taya's story had a lot, like I said before, a lot of strong points. She got justice to a certain extent, right? Although I don't really, that's another thing. People get more time for marijuana than for sexual abuse, but that's a whole different thing, right? But there was justice to some extent and all of those kind of things, which would have helped her healing process. But generally, the process of therapy would involve exploring everything that happened. And for you specifically, if we're talking about helping you to heal, you can't truly heal unless you face everything that happened to you, and you can't face everything if you don't even remember. Right? So it would be a lot about going into your unconscious mind and digging out those memories, which would be essentially very uncomfortable to deal with, but they would come up like flashbacks, or they would come up like in dreams and those kind of things. And working through all of the feelings, I feel like she still uses a lot of the defense mechanisms that she originally used. So it would be helping you not to use those kind of things, which is helping your mind essentially, I'm telling your mind to not do what it has done all your life to protect you in order for you to grow, because what your mind has done is kept you safe. But if you're just safe, you're not growing.
Right.
So it would be to explore those kind of things. But then there are other defense mechanisms that you continue to use, like showering, right? Which is the mind's way of saying, if I bathe and I wash myself as clean as I can, then unconsciously I'm making myself clean. I don't know if you have OCD tendencies, if you like to keep places clean.
Oh
if
my
you
gosh,
like to
yes.
keep-
I like
Right?
things in order. If something is out of order, I feel like
Right.
I can't.
So it's about exploring all the ways in which this has affected your life that you haven't even noticed yet, right? And then the whole process, I think you have moved from the whole therapy process is, like Delia said, moving from victim to survivor to advocate. And I feel like you have gone through the steps without really going through the steps. So it would be about digging up all of that and doing the work. And girl, you would cry.
Oh yes.
You
Oh yes.
right? If you're coming to me, I tell you no napkin, no rag, and nothing. Bring a mop and a pail because you crying for all them years you didn't cry, right? Because what you've done is you held everything inside. But the moment
When the dam
we
breaks.
open that and the dam breaks, girl, you're gonna be crying about everything. You're gonna be watching a movie and you see something and you just start crying, right? So that is how the process is. But as she said, she's willing to be a part of the process, and that's all you need to be willing and to have the right kind of help. But that's what it is. But again, it's different for everybody, because if you have somebody that somebody didn't believe them and they didn't get justice and they see the person all about and they know the person probably doing it to other people and all of those kind of things, then it's a whole different process. But
Delia, from your point of view, this one didn't get away.
No. And I mean, I'm sorry that it had to happen to you too. But I am very happy. I am happy that you are brave enough that you could come out there. And so it's not Mrs. Wicks giving a second-hand story, but you are saying, and people will begin to understand that sometimes so some people are listening to this program and they're more in tune to what are all these sordid little details that you can give, more than looking at you as a human being who has been violated. But we must understand that every case is not the same, and everybody doesn't have the same coping mechanisms. And even with your coping mechanisms in place, the process of healing is different for each individual. And it is necessary for as close to proper healing that victims, while they are survivors, that they begin to work through all of the nasty bits that they do not want to remember, because it's going to inflict pain on them again. But there are so many people in Dominica walking around with those haversacks on their backs for dinner. It is not funny. And sometimes, maybe when people listen to this program tonight, they may begin to put two and two together for some people and some of the things. But there is so much that has been buried for years. Sure, they spoke about post-COVID and pre-COVID. This thing is embedded in our society.
it is.
We're very, very good at covering up. When we look at the history of grandparents or auntie or uncle being shipped off to another Caribbean island or being sent to the country to live with somebody else, and we come down to the nitty-gritty of it, and there are people just acting out, and we wonder, but she's from such a good home, and her mother is doing so much. Why is she behaving like that? Do we really want to know? And if we find out, are we willing to walk with her? Are we willing to hold her hand and help her? Shoyage is a professional counselor. There are other programs that also assist people who have gone through trauma. It doesn't always have to be sexual trauma. But for example, Lifeline Ministries runs a powerful program called Pieced Together. You start with the pieces, and by the end of the program, the participants have PEACE, peace. Not that they have forgotten what has happened, but they're better able to deal with the real situation. And for Dinah, I cannot say thank you enough to Amanda and her team for bringing this issue to the fore, for allowing us to have a candid conversation. Some people may not have wanted to listen to that tonight. They wanted to listen to cricket or something more exciting. But if we don't bring those things to the fore, then we're not helping to heal our nation. And these are the people who are going to take over. I'm not here for forever. I mean, I would like to believe that Mrs. Sweet still has another 50 so many years on the face of the earth, but let's get real. And it's good that the young people, we have so many negative things to say about young people, but young people are doing good and powerful things for our nation, and they need to be applauded. And I cannot understand that you all say that this organization has existed for 10 years.
Where have I been?
I was thinking the same.
But kudos to you. You have survived for 10 years. You have 10 years ahead of you. The work is not going to go away. We go away. But until the situation changes, that work is vital for national development.
I must say for Teo that Teo has done something that is, I don't think she intentionally did it, but what she did was she spoke out. She spoke about it, and the only reason why sexual abuse within childhood continues to be so pervasive is because of secrecy. Is because we don't talk about it, and when we talk about it, what we do is we take back the power from the abuser, because that is what abuse is about. It's about power, right? So the moment you refuse to remain silent is the moment he no longer has the kind of hold that he had on you. That's why you feel like something lifted. Now, even if he is still out there, everybody knows what he did, right? It's out there, so he can't just go around under secrecy doing his whole thing. But I'd like to say something to us generally. There is a rape culture, right? There is a rape culture where we blame the victim a lot of times, where we use words like she had sex with a big man. Like, how does she have sex with a big man and she's 8 years old, right?
Madness.
We basically protect people from being violated by teaching them not to be violated, and we don't teach violators not to violate, right? So we don't put the emphasis on, like we'll say to girls, right? Don't wear certain things, don't go certain places, and it's not saying that we shouldn't warn girls, right, that to be safe. But when we do that, and the only emphasis is don't wear certain things, don't go certain places, we're saying that if you do that, it's your fault. Instead of telling our boys and our girls that it don't matter if somebody's naked, you don't have a right to touch them because it's their body, right? So we have that culture. We also have a culture where we don't talk about abuse being done to boys. Right? We don't talk about abuse being done to boys. So a lot of times we think that abusers are men, and that's not necessarily true. And a lot of times we feel like only women get abused. So oftentimes we would be saying, oh, I'll keep my girl home, but I'll send my boys all over the place. But boys are being abused as well. I mean, when I say it's a global pandemic, I mean, if I see 10 people a day, 9 or the 10 of them have experienced sexual trauma on an everyday basis. It is there all the time. And one of the reasons why children don't know how to identify what's happening to them is because we don't talk to them. We don't have conversations about their bodies. We don't tell them about what people are not supposed to do with them. Some people don't even know how to call, don't even allow the children to say the private part, I say private part, the sexual organs, right? They tell them it's the private part. It's your penis and your vagina. The child say that you behave like it's a curse word, right? So they don't know what it is about their body. They don't know what should be done. So something happened to them. They don't know if it's wrong. They don't know if it's right. And we force our children to do things when they're uncomfortable. Like I have a 7-month-old and I have a 3-year-old, and I tell anybody, even people closest to them in the family, if they don't want to hug you, they don't want to hug you.
True.
Right? You come and you say, come and hug so and so, and come and hug so and so. Do you know children? No. But what children are learning at that age is they are learning boundaries. So if my little boy or my little girl don't want to hug you, you could be my friend, you could be my best friend, you could be auntie, granny, whatever. Then if you say no, it's no. He's 3, but he doesn't want to hug you. He doesn't want to kiss you. That way I'm teaching him that if he doesn't want to do something that's uncomfortable, he shouldn't. But if I tell him, is your auntie, is your granny, is your so-and-so, go and hug them. Then what happens in 5 years when uncle touching him inappropriately? I have taught him that even if he's uncomfortable, he should go and kiss somebody and hug somebody because they're part of the family and those kind of things. So these are the conversations we need to have where we can help our children to know what is happening to them from very young, and then be very open to them telling us things. So if they tell us that something happened to them, we first listen to them. So some of us, we ready to beat everybody. Teachers say they do something at school, we're ready to beat them one time. Then if something happens to them, they don't know if they can talk to you because you always beat them before listening to them. So these are some of the things we can do, and we can try not to perpetuate rape culture by even the things that we say and the things that we do. Yeah?
And Delia, we need to believe the children.
Yes, and we must also understand that somehow in our minds, we always equate sexual abuse with pain, and it is not always that, because some of the perpetrators, they know exactly what they're doing, and they groom the children, and it escalates over time, so the child doesn't quite know when did it cross from being a familiar touch to being something that had me feeling uncomfortable, because he's accustomed of touching me anyway. And so they're very deliberate in what they're doing. But again, as Shoya said, we have to teach our children. If it makes you uncomfortable, you don't have to be able to pinpoint to say, he touched here, or he did this, or she did that. If it makes you uncomfortable, it is time to get out of there, to speak about it. And we have to, even if we as parents are shocked when our children would come to us and tell us certain things, let us not show our disbelief or our shock on our faces. So the child says so and so, and you say, you lie. It's not that you really think the child is lying, but you're so shocked. It's unbelievable. Because then you begin to question yourself as an adult, and you're like, so what kind of judge of character am I that I would have brought that kind of person into our lives? It's easier for me to say, well, the child is dreaming, or she's telling lies, or she has a very lively imagination. That is so much easier to make me feel good as a person. But I will remind people that these things that we look at as very simple, they have very long lasting effects. Some people are not capable of having a proper romantic relationship for the rest of their lives. Some people abuse their children and they don't even know why. Some people find themselves with particular sexual orientations because of things that happen to them in infancy. How would you feel, for Dinah, if you have a nanny? So you're not even sending your child to daycare because you're so protective. Sure, you're 7-month-old baby. You have somebody coming to your home to take care of that child. So you're creating a super safe environment. And your little boy, the nanny, every time she comes to change his nappy, she sucks his penis. Why would you do that to a child? He's not yet a year old.
And that's a real story.
He has no idea what is going on. But you find that this little boy is just so interested in his little penis, and he's always looking to recreate that sensation. Because I say to people, whether boys or girls, the vagina and the penis come with all the nerve endings. They don't grow as you develop and become an adult. So they are there from the time the child is born. And they don't know what it is for, but they feel things. So if you stroke a child, they will feel, they don't know whether it's to laugh or to cry. It's a funny little feeling. It tickles and so on. You as an adult, male or female, you understand what it is and you will take steps to recreate that feeling. But the child doesn't know what is going on. But you might just find that this child is growing up with this kind of unhealthy sense of wanting to be by myself and playing in my genitals. And you might say, but something is wrong with the child. Yes, because that child has been abused. And even when we speak sometimes about serious issues like this, and you find somebody giggling at a serious thing like that, it may be that somewhere in their subconscious, something is awakening and they're very uncomfortable. They don't know how to deal with it. So we have to somehow, outside of the Kalinago territory, expand it so that people who are struggling, who are beginning to remember, at least they have somebody that they can talk to, that they can listen to, somebody who can help them with dealing with those issues.
Delia, you've been advocating for years.
Can I just say something?
Yes, sure.
Okay. So Lilia pointed out something very important, but I want to just say this as a precaution, right? So developmentally, children at certain ages, like how they discover parts of their body. Like my 7-month-old, I think she has a hand thing, so she's looking at her hand the whole time. Like she's like, oh my God, I have hands, right?
What is this wonderful thing?
Right. So she's doing this all day, right? She's discovering hands. But developmentally, children discover their bodies. Yeah. So they get to a certain age, boys and girls, especially in toddlerhood, where they discover their penises and their vaginas. And they would start touching and playing with their vaginas. It's not always a sign that they are being sexually abused. And you ask them sometimes, they tell you, it feel like it's tickling, it feel like it, because there are nerve endings. So it's not always a sign that there is sexual abuse. So like, people have come to me and say, I feel like somebody touched my child because my child touching his penis, touching her vagina, right? So I'm telling you, because they would have come and they say those things, and I'm saying, is it a situation where the child is prolonging it, where the child is, is playing with the penis and the vagina all the time, and if the child will rub against something and feel good, and they try to do it again, but then they go and they play and they forget about the penis and they go out, right? They forget. But if it's a situation where the child is preoccupied and doing it all the time, then that is something that we look at, right? But Delia said, touch on something I just want to expand before we leave. Sexual abuse is not just the penetrative act, right? It is like you talk about grooming, right? So they come and they're nice to you and they give you things, and grooming can be done with parents too, not just children. So we come and we start being friendly with the parents and so on, so that we can take out the child a little time, and we start touching little hands, and before you know it, the little shoulders and all of those. There's sexual areas. Yeah. Sexual abuse is also exposing children to sexual content or sexual organs and doing those kind of things. And grooming can be pretending like you expose them to something, pretending like it's an accidental exposure, or you come out of the bathroom and just drop the towel. Oh my God, I'm sorry, right? But they have already seen your body parts, those kind of things. So those are like aspects of grooming. Those are aspects of sexual abuse as well as just touching, no penetration and so on. So sometimes people would have said, well, I wasn't sexually abused, I didn't have a sexual experience. Especially boys brag about being sexually abused without knowing that they're being sexually abused. Yeah man, my cousin had sex with me when I was 7 and all kind of thing, and they feel like manly enough to say that kind of things. Yeah. Right? So they talk about those kind of things, or women will say, well, I've never been sexually abused, but I had an uncle that always touched my bottom when I passed him and those kind of things, right? But they don't deem it as sexual abuse because I would be a victim if I said that, and those things happen to other people. But again, you don't see it as an issue, but you feel uncomfortable when someone touches your bottom, right? So that's where it is. So we have to look at the fact that it's not just penetrative sex. It's all of those kind of things, and exposing children to things before they're ready. And even if we don't even touch them and we have the intention to touch them, then that is sexual abuse. And when we look at predators or people who are sexually attracted to children, it is very scary, because pedophilia, unlike other kinds of disorders and those kind of things, it doesn't involve actually touching a child. And this is where it gets pretty scary, right? Pedophilia is the attraction to pre-pubescent children. And the majority of pedophiles never actually sexually abuse a child, never touch a child. It's actually being sexually attracted to the child. That is what it is. So we have big people being married, having their families, and when they are having sex, they are picturing a child in the head, right? These people basically surround themselves in areas where they have access to children all the time. They might not do what Delia said with the Pampers, but they can see their naked bodies all the time. So they work in our daycares, they work in our schools, they work as our coaches, they work as our nannies, they work in our churches, they work everywhere where they have access to children all the time. And it doesn't mean that they have touched somebody. It means that they have the sexual attraction. So even just a look, as a parent, you feel a little uncomfortable because that person is looking at your child a certain way, and you feel like, so don't look at it as a situation where sexual abuse is, or sexual abusers are people who always just go around doing these things. We have to be very careful about the children, or about the people around our children, because you don't know what's in people's minds.
Guys, it's already 5 minutes past 10 o'clock, so we have to wrap things up on the program now. I'm going to give everyone some final comments. I really would like to say thank you to you, Theo, for being here with us this evening and sharing your story. As we all agreed, you still have some work to do, because you speak about some struggles that you're still experiencing. I'm sure you want to have a family of your own and that kind of thing. So maybe Shoya probably, or somebody of your choice, needs to provide that type of support that you need at this time. But we really appreciate you being brave, being Kalinago brave, and coming here and sharing with us tonight. I'm sure you may have caused at least maybe one person to say, I need to tell my story, I need to speak up, I need to talk about what happened to me.
Yes, I'm so happy that I could share my story, and that this campaign, I would like to speak more about it, yes, of course.
Good.
Because I know there are lots of people that that this story could really have a great impact and could cause them to speak out to make big changes. And I'm really happy I got the opportunity to share my story. And I know that it doesn't stop here. And I know that we are going to make a huge impact on a lot of people here in Dominica. So
Wonderful.
I'm
And I wish you well and the super future,
Thank
my
you very
darling.
much.
Yes, Delia, some final words from you, some final words from Shoya, and then we'll get some final words from Amanda.
Okay, so my final few words would be to people: wake up and open your eyes. You've been educated on some of the things that are happening, some of the signs to look for. Do not be in shock or in disbelief. You will observe certain things. If you see something, speak up. Say something. Find somebody to talk to, because you may not be able to handle the problem on your own. But if you take that first step, you will be changing the quality of life of another person. And if you can help in any way, you heard what this group is doing. Every little bit counts. Your physical support is required. Your financial support is required. Spiritual support, all support is needed on board. Come join us.
Shoya Gimasipot.
Okay, so Cleo, I am so proud of you.
Oh.
I am so proud of you. Listen, when I see my babies out there doing things, let me tell you, right? I am so proud of you, and I am so honored to be a part of this foundation, really. Amanda did her thing to draw me in, but I feel like I'm the one that's benefiting from being a part of this foundation. So thank you. What I would say is, I'd like to address anybody who's ever been sexually abused, who's ever gone through any form of violation. It was not your fault, right? It is never the fault of the person who is abused. It wasn't because of what you were wearing. It wasn't because of what you were doing. It wasn't because of because you had alcohol. It wasn't because of nothing. It wasn't because you had a short skirt or you had a little panty on or because you didn't know. It wasn't your fault. It's always the fault of the perpetrator, right? So it's very important to understand, one, that you shouldn't take this blame on yourself. It's very important to understand that by speaking out, you take back your power, and it's very important for you to actually partake in the healing process, because that is the only way that something like this will matter. If you can take it and survive it and use it to help people, then what would have happened would have had a purpose, and you can transform pain into purpose by standing up and moving from victim to survivor and then to an advocate. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, it was a pleasure. Amanda, some brief remarks as we wrap up.
Okay, so I just want to say thank you to you, Dinah, for having us. I'd like to thank our special guest, Dr. Mastercard, Mrs. Delia Coffee-Wicks, Taylor, thank you for being so brave, and all the other members of the organization. Thank you so much, and I pray that sponsors will come on board and support the initiative. It's very important for our entire society. Thank you.
All right, thank you everyone. Thank you especially Teo and Delia, Amanda, Shoya, and the two others who joined us, Nicole and Marlon, who joined us earlier on, and Mr. Ben, who assisted us as well. Thank you everyone. We will be back here next week Monday for another program. Until then, thank you and good night.